The main area of my work is the economics of human development, and in particular how we can reduce socioeconomic inequalities in children's skills through early intervention programs. So we know that children from disadvantaged backgrounds, they typically have poorer cognitive skills, poorer socio-emotional skills, and worse health. We also know that a lot of these inequalities are generated by differences in the types of environments that children are exposed to. So we know that children in low SES backgrounds are typically exposed to a poorer quality home environment, perhaps poorer parenting skills, and they also have access to less material resources as well. But we know that parents are critical for their children's development. So for the last 8 years, I've been working on a home visiting program, which aims to improve these parenting skills, improve the quality of the environment which children are exposed to, with the ultimate aim of improving their human capital. The name of this program is Preparing for Life. Starting back almost 8 years ago now, we recruited pregnant women and we randomly assigned them to a high and low treatment group. Both groups received a set of low-level services in common. However, what the treatment really involved were 3 intensive parenting supports: a 5-year home visiting program, baby massage classes, and the Triple P Positive Parenting program. And the really idea behind this program was that by giving each family in the high treatment group a mentor, the mentor would work with the families once every 2 weeks, starting during pregnancy and continuing until the child started school, which in Ireland is when they're about 4 or 5 years old, that these mentors would develop a relationship of trust with the parents. Coupled with high quality information from tip sheets, this would lead parents to change their behaviour. And as parents change their behaviour, ultimately that should have an impact on children's outcomes. So for the last 8 years, we've been evaluating the effectiveness of this program using a randomized controlled trial design. Every 6 months, we go into the family's home and we assess parenting, the quality of the home environment, and most importantly, we assess child outcomes. And what we found when the program ended, when the children started school, was the children who had the high treatment, who received the mentoring, the home visiting, Triple P, the baby massage, they had higher cognitive skills, they had more developed socio-emotional skills and less behavioural problems, and they're also healthier and used health services a lot less. So we concluded from this that the Preparing for Life program was an effective method of trying to improve school readiness among disadvantaged children. I suppose one of the areas of how this work is unique is that most evaluations of early childhood intervention programs originally are designed and evaluated by developmental psychologists or perhaps educationalists. Often the economists are brought in, at the end to do a cost-benefit analysis, but it's pretty rare to have an economist from the beginning design and evaluate an early childhood intervention program, which is what I and my team have been doing in the Geary Institute for the last number of years. And this is important, I think, because how economists approach measurement, the types of statistical methods that we use to estimate treatment effects can be somewhat different from other disciplines. For example, we are very conscious of the fact that we are using small sample sizes. We're conscious of the fact that we need to control for differential attrition over time. And we're conscious of the fact that we are analysing multiple outcomes. So we put a number of different methods in place and we use different methods in order to address these issues. I think economists are also very concerned about internal and external validity. So from the get-go, we've put mechanisms in place where we can measure things like contamination and spillover and attrition and Hawthorne effects. And all these normal things that often come up when you're running randomized controlled trials, but yet people often do not think about from the beginning. So I think economists, by working with other disciplines, can really try to address the issue of why interventions work, or whether interventions work, and why interventions work. One area that I think we really need to start working more on and concentrating more on is the idea of mechanisms. So when you have a randomized controlled trial of an early intervention and you estimate your treatment effect, that will tell you if the program worked or if the program didn't work. It will not tell you why that program worked or didn't work. We really need now to spend more time investing in mechanisms. So what was it about that intervention that led to change? What was the magic ingredient, the key ingredient that was needed for that intervention to be effective? And this is important because it will help program developers design better programs, perhaps cheaper programs, and it'll help policymakers to really understand why these interventions worked, what are the essential ingredients, and what ingredients can we drop, making the intervention cheaper. So in terms of mechanisms, what we really need to do is collect better data on, say, parenting and the home environment, either through observational measures or through other measurement areas. Another thing we need to do is measure treatment intensity. We know that parents in early intervention programs and families in early intervention programs widely differ in how much treatment they actually receive. You have some families who avail of a lot of treatment and other families who receive less treatment. So there's variability in dosage. But most of the analysis that we conduct in randomized controlled trials are based on an intention to treat analysis. So we don't consider variability in treatment at all. However, knowing how much treatment is needed to generate an effect is really important from a cost perspective, but from a program designer's perspective as well. The issue is selection though, right? The types of families who receive more treatment are often different from the types of families who receive less treatment. So we need to deal with selection because automatically we're moving away from the beauty of an experiment because we have now got selection into treatment. But many of the methods that we typically use to deal with selection, like instrumental variables or matching methods, just aren't appropriate when you have a really small sample size. So I think one area that we really need to start working on in economics as economists working in this area is to how we can model dosage, treatment intensity within early childhood intervention programs. Another area where I think the future of this work will go will be to start working with epigeneticists in much greater detail. Again, to try to get at the mechanisms of why intervention works. We know that gene expression can be modified by the environment, right? That's what epigeneticists have shown us. However, very few early intervention studies have actually incorporated an epigenetic component within it. But it is likely that if we change the environment children are exposed to, this is going to change their gene expression, which is going to ultimately have an impact on their outcomes. So I think in the future, what we need to do is start collecting some biological data within experimental samples to try to explore this epigenetic work in more detail. When I first started working on this area almost 10 years ago, it was a huge departure from what I normally worked on. So I worked on political economy, voting behaviour. I downloaded large longitudinal data sets like the NCDS study, the British cohort study, the Millennium cohort study, and I analysed how people voted. And this work was interesting and I published really well, but did it really change anyone's lives? Did it really have an impact on anyone? Unfortunately, probably not. So when I was given the opportunity to help design and evaluate randomized controlled trials of early intervention programs, I did hesitate because it was a completely departure from my research expertise. But I soon quickly realized that this type of work is important. It has the capacity to have a real impact on real people. Not only the people who are participating in the trial, like Preparing for Life, but also other families who may end up receiving this treatment because of the results that we show through our work.